If you're a bit of a city mouse, can you still relate to this show about wild Montana?
What type of man do you want to be? Taylor Sheridan makes this argument more clear than most.
Red and Red Real Reviews relates to a family's journey of grief with the Madison on Paramount Plus. I knew within the first 5 minutes I was going to hate it, but then it was so bad. Ugh.
Nobody wants this. Like
Literally nobody wants this.
Internet's gonna get mad at me for this one. There's no fat elf.
Duty, which I can't say without laughing. Duty, like I'm English.
John B and Sarah are, I don't want to sound like a loser for saying this, but they're adorable. I'll admit it.
Welcome to another episode of Red and Red Real Reviews. Today, we're covering The Madison on Paramount Plus, which, if you've been keeping track, is us yo-yoing back and forth to Taylor Sheridan shows. So this is another one in the Taylor Sheridan universe, we'll call it. Before we get deep into this, though, let us know what you think of the podcast as a whole or a possible show we should have on our radar to cover by emailing us at redandredrealreviews@gmail.com and following us on Instagram, Red and Red Real Reviews. That's the letter N, real spelled with two E's. So Marshall's was the last Taylor Sheridan show we covered. And we talked about the distinctions made with each show he's involved with. It's a little bit different show to show. So for this show, The Madison, he did executive produce it, like Marshall's, but with this one, he has more involvement than he had with Marshall's. So he did create it and he did write this one also. And I believe he was the sole writer in the credits when I looked. So he was very, very heavily involved with this one. I'm sure he came up with the concept, came up with the writing. So we've seen half of it already. It's 6 episodes. We've seen 3 that dropped initially, and they're going to drop the remaining 3 this weekend. So anyone who sees the trailer for The Madison can already tell it's going to be probably a little bit of a tearjerker. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be poignant than all of his, more poignant than all of his other shows. So what sort of mindset were you heading into this with?
Not much of one because, as you and our audience know, I don't like to prep my mind for what the
Mm.
experience will be like, especially something like this with very vague tones and promotional art. We know it's in Montana. We know
Mm-hmm.
it's sold by longtime headline actors like Kurt Russell and Michelle
Mm-hmm.
Pfeiffer. So because there wasn't a whole lot told about how deep in the weeds we were gonna get.
Mm.
I didn't wanna. It kind of probably even more so reinforce my normal opinion not to influence myself in any way.
Yeah, yeah, and I get it because the trailer, I looked back at it before recording this just so I could jog my memory about what the trailer showed, just because I didn't want to divulge anything that the trailer didn't divulge, purposely. So I was a little bit struck by how vague the trailer is. So we're obviously going to be careful in talking about it today, not getting too into the weeds, as you mentioned. So yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't really sure what I was gonna you know, what to expect, but I did sort of, I've seen a couple articles or headlines on social media that are like, this is the new show your mom's gonna love, and I was a little offended by that because I was like, well, I'm pretty excited for it. A, I'm not a mom. B, I'm not that old.
No, and yeah, I think that's just like the generations dividing. Like, oh, I can't love this because it's too serious or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what it was too, is like it was vague too. And they're showing all of the different actors who are featured in this show. sort of equally. So they're showing Kurt Russell, they're showing Michelle Pfeiffer, they're showing Patrick Adams, all of them, sort of. And you're sort of wondering, I was wondering, is this a chick show? Like, is this like kind of like Virgin River? You haven't seen it, but it's on Netflix, and it's it's a show that very much does focus on, the, I won't say the wilderness, but a little bit on nature, like that, like small town vibe, like everyone's happy and the settings are gorgeous and breathtaking, and we all know each other around here, and so it had a little bit of that same vibe, but I just wasn't sure if it was going to be a total chick flick, even though it's not a movie.
That is, and it's funny that that's the impression that you thought it gave off because that's misleading from what the impression really was.
Yeah, I mean,
Slightly,
it's,
slightly misleading, not totally
yeah.
misleading, but slightly misleading.
Yeah, and of course, you have it fronted by a female character. Like it's pretty obvious that Michelle Pfeiffer is the main character. And I mean, I do think that's a big draw, though, that I was looking forward to just because it seems like Taylor Sheridan pulls out all the stops. First he had Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. Now he's getting Michelle Pfeiffer and Kurt Russell. Like, holy hell.
Yeah, a little bit of that old bear effect we talk about where everyone wants to be involved in a shared
Yeah.
project. The release strategy that you brought up is a different one by Paramount's usual MO.
Mm,
They like to do things old school, one episode a week, but still embracing the current industry standards of 10 episodes in a season.
mm-hmm,
And this one, after seeing half of this right up front, I'm pretty confident that they could not. This is the type of show that probably could not pull off that usual strategy because it is
mm,
deeper, because it is more emotional. It's a little to me, it's a little intellectual as well. So it doesn't have that typical Taylor Sheridan vein of high octane type of weekly
mm-hmm.
draw. So even though it's different, I think it made sense for this to be a kind of two-part drop instead of drawn out weekly process.
Yeah, it is great that they're not making us wait for the whole thing. We got half of it right up front, and that was great. But I'm sort of the jury is out for me on what their plan is for this, or what their is this meant to be just a limited series of 6 episodes? Is this meant to be a multi-season show? Where is this going? I'm just a little confused about where it's going. You know, uh, we have a lot to talk about with the 3 episodes. Let's get into your one thing. So what did you think?
So I often notice this with Taylor Sheridan products, but it feels more pronounced with this one.
Mm,
Not and not nearly as subtle, not nearly as subtle as in the past, as
mm,
what we saw in the Madison. And that's the dichotomy between society and culture nowadays
mm-hmm,
versus years and years ago, which still has some feet in Western culture. There's several different instances in this where I think it's kind of prominent. One is right off the bat when Paige gets assaulted in the New York
mm,
City streets, and everyone around her they whip out their iPhones and they're looking to catch a viral moment. Not one person thinks to go up to her and help her off the street, make sure
mm,
she's okay, that sort of thing. So that's very indicative of modern culture, modern
mm-hmm,
society versus the past. There's shots of the family all engrossed in their phones,
mm-hmm,
panicked over how to get onto the cabin's Wi-Fi a bit later, instead of enjoying the company of those that they're with.
mm-hmm.
Abigail's snotty children, not being grateful for genuine acts of kindness. They're focusing on little microaggressions that, of course, run rampant in modern discourse. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I nothing against. So you said the actor's name before, Patrick Adams. Nothing against his character Russell specifically, but the juxtaposition of him as this modern male who really would struggle doing single manual tasks, and awaiting his wife's marching orders instead of being more proactive and just doing what's expected of him as a man versus the comparison of the neighbor Cade and his wife, and how the deputy interacts in a relational aspect. Yeah, so there's all these different comparisons that in this series to me are very, very obvious instead of being subtle undertones that we're used to in Taylor Sheridan series. Series
Yeah, and I
is.
series is. I definitely think there's been that dichotomy in Yellowstone for sure. It's like, obviously we're living off the land is better. I mean, this is just the theory that Taylor Sheridan and that showed the general vibe that they were putting out. Living off the land is more fulfilling and it'll bring more happiness than focusing on material things or focusing on wealth. And yeah, so there has been some of that in Taylor Sheridan shows, but I definitely feel like this is sort of integrating some of the issues of today, societal issues with technology, us not being able to put it down, and also us not being able to deal with not having simple things, running water or the we really take for granted the little things, and we almost couldn't survive without all of these things in our life. And I just thought it funny too that with the incident with Paige, who is Kurt Russell and Michelle Pfeiffer's daughter, one of their two daughters. She gets assaulted in New York City. No one rushes to help her. And Michelle Pfeiffer is talking with one of her girlfriends about how bad New York City is. And all of her friends are like, oh, yeah, all of her friends have moved to Florida or moved somewhere else. Or her friend is saying, oh, we might move to Connecticut. I thought that was funny. Oh, we might move to Connecticut full time, get out of New York City. And so I did feel it's kind of funny. It's paralleling. It's a parallel to real life because you have a lot going on with New York City right now where people are saying it's changed so much that it's not the city that I once loved.
Yeah, and even over the last 5 years, not even in
Mm-hmm.
super recent times as well. And to your
Yeah.
point on not being able to appreciate the single things, also the interpretation of what a simple thing is. In
Mm,
modern society, you think that your smartphone is the simple thing in life because does so much, and you forget that the real simple things are more like running water,
mm.
especially, in a cabin where they have running water, but if it's off a well, it's not off of a city supply. Or having to hunt and forage your own food and sustenance as opposed to going right around the corner to the grocery store.
Right. Yeah, it's just it's almost it's funny to me how the old ways of life are coming back into fashion. It's becoming, you hear a lot more often of influential figures, these Jay Shetty types, of people saying, "Oh yeah, I unplug every weekend," or "I turn off my phone and enjoy dinner or you know just being around the house with my family from Saturday to Sunday," or "When I wake up in the morning, I do not look at my phone for 2 hours. I start my day organically rather than staring at my phone the second I wake up. I don't use my phone for an alarm. You have this like they have devices called like the brick where you can
The
shut off
brick.
your phone. Have you heard of that? Like,
No.
so that you don't get tempted to, I think you like lock up your phone or something. I don't know. So they have all these devices to make you not look at your phone. I mill my own flour now. I bake. It's coming back in fashion for people to make sourdough bread. Like all these like things that we call trad wife tasks or skills these days are coming back that people used to do 120 years ago. So that stuff is starting to be more important to us now because we've seen how far gone we've gotten from technology and the way it's made us.
And we're not better off for it as was
Right.
promised as was promised from the advent of all the technology. I laugh at the brick
Right.
because when someone says the brick, I think of those old cell phones that didn't do anything but play Snake.
Oh, when I think of brick, I think like a Zach Morris cell phone that's like this big, like him
Oh,
having it next to his head.
those are car phones today. Those are car
I,
phones.
yeah, like the car phone size.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because we all know damn well that we are not better for it. And it's funny because I think Michelle Pfeiffer and a couple characters make a few little comments in the show like that, like, oh, and we're all better for it, like sarcastically, or like,
Hmm.
yep, we're not better for it. Like
Yeah.
they have all those little asides where they're kind of jabbing into like modern culture, and it's funny that there's a definite agenda in how Taylor Sheridan is creating this story to show, you know, like it's like he's trying to prove a theory, which I think is valid, that the before times were better and superior to now. And even though we have all this technology, even though we have all these tools to help us, we would be so much happier if we just went back to similar times, or simpler times rather.
Wake up and smell the hummus, to quote the genie from Aladdin.
He says that.
Yes.
I did not know he says that. So kind of in a similar vein to what you had for your one thing, the thing that I would watch this show for is the fish out of water mentality. And what I mean by that is I loved seeing people extremely out of their element. You know, it was funny at times. I laughed out loud a few times. It made things interesting just because you're seeing people in situations that they're not comfortable with. And then it really, at the end of the day, was just relatable to me. And I I mean, I think it's no secret really. Like my husband's family thinks I'm a princess because I can't rough it. I cannot. I'm not good at roughing it. And I've never been camping before. I don't really have any desire to go camping. Um I'm not from the city though. I'm from a small town of like a few thousand people. So cities scare the daylights out of me. Like New York City scares me a lot. Boston, not as much, but I'm scared by cities, so I'm not a city mouse, as you know, they talk about being city mice, coming from New York City. But I'm not a person who's like in touch with nature. I'm not good with nature. I'm afraid of bugs. I'm afraid of snakes. I'm
Afraid of bugs.
afraid of little animals and all of that stuff. So, I mean, obviously, this takes place in Montana, and I do think Montana looks gorgeous, and like I would love to go there someday, but I can't do it in a way where I'm extremely roughing it because I I don't know. I've been to my husband's family's place in Vermont, and it's just like it's way too honky tonky for me. I just I need my stuff.
Need my stuff.
I need my plumbing. Like I had to shower in an outdoor shower, which is just miserable. It's terrible. Um, yeah, I just could relate to the situations the city mice characters go through in the show, and it was laughable. Like I was like, I could see myself in this situation easily, you know. So that's one thing that I really, really liked about it. And that's what I would recommend for the whole basis for why people should watch.
I have been to Montana a couple times, and
Oh, you have?
yeah, in your case, just go to Billings.
Oh, is
Billings is
that
a
like a
pretty
city
modern
though?
city. It's the capital.
Oh, okay.
But I mean the countryside and why you go to Montana is absolutely gorgeous. So it's like
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things that when you experience, you get it instantly.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, and they filmed it in Montana, so it's all
yeah,
authentic.
right. As as another thing, we're used to Taylor Sheridan, filming on location. So it's
Yep.
true, if it's in Texas, it's in Texas. If it's in Montana, it's in Montana.
Yep.
I mean, I I can't particularly say I'm a woodsman either. but I mean, one side of my family was very in tune with that. So
Mm,
the things were always of interest to me, and I was always exposed to, even if I didn't necessarily always partake in it. And Western and Native culture is something I got from kind of both sides that I was exposed to and always piqued my interest.
mm,
So, and this is still in the face of that side of the family having traditionally white collar professions. The other side of my family, uh, where the ones I was closest to also had very white collar career backgrounds, but they were very blue collar in the nature of
mm,
doing things themselves, fixing, repairing,
hmm.
rather than buying a new replacement or paying someone to correct the problem. So uh, it's even if it's not always something I directly experienced or things that I tangentially experienced, there's still things I can relate to. There's still things I find appealing.
Mm,
Um, and I also look at the character of Preston as very relatable to me, even
mm,
if he's portrayed on the screen as a posthumous character. I can relate to him being a child of suburbia because seeing the natural beauty of the world, seeing the natural beauty of this country, which I think a lot of people don't realize because everyone and you know nothing wrong with traveling internationally. I think a lot of people when they think of traveling, that's what they want to do. They want to go to
mm,
Asia, they want to go to Australia, they want to go to Europe, they want to go to, you know, certain parts of South America. You know, they want to experience all these different cultures. There's nothing wrong with that, but they also forget that we have a lot of beauty here as well.
mm.
Um, and I think that's something that I can always appreciate, and I think Preston embodies that like to an absolute T. Because this it's very obvious in this that they're in New York because whatever Preston did with his life, he was very, very successful in modern terms. You know, I don't know whether he's a tech guy, whether he's a financial guy, but
Mm.
he's accrued a lot of wealth through more modern means.
Right. They never say exactly. Oh, and Preston is Kurt Russell's character, just for anyone who's confused. But yeah, they never say exactly why they're in the position they are, being so wealthy and living in they have a townhouse in New York City. So very fancy. He has to have a lot of money. And I mean, they don't really mention either if he's from there, but but what we know is that his brother Paul, played by Matthew Fox, is lives out there. So every so often Preston goes and stays in he has his own little cabin right next to Paul's, but he visits him every so often. They don't really say like he goes there 5 times a year. They don't say if he goes there once a year. He's just been going there for years and years and decades. And yeah, so he's always telling his wife, Michelle Pfeiffer, Stacy, he's always telling her about what it's like there. And she's kind of like not really interested. She's laughing about it, like, oh, I mean, that sounds funny. Or, he's like, oh, well, this place has the best sunset. In this place, the animals come out. And she's just kind of like, oh, okay, you're like allowing him to talk as much about what he loves about the place, but she's just kind of humoring him. Like she's not really all that interested. She's just being a nice, attentive wife and listening, but you can tell she doesn't really have any intention of, like, that's his place to enjoy. She doesn't really have any intention of wanting to go there.
I think that's intentional with the writing to
Mm,
have that mix, and they imply that he tries to go to the ranch every opportunity he gets. But
mm.
there's also a subtle undertone to that, like to experience things like that before it's too late.
Yeah. And just the a general theme of this show, I think, so far is like time and treasuring time that you have with people, and not only your time that you have with people, but like what are you doing with the people you love and that you care about? What
Exactly. Making the
Like
most of it.
yes, making the most of it. How are you spending that time? Like, is it worthwhile what you're doing, or have you been focusing on all the wrong things?
Yeah.
Um, Now, I guess getting into the verdict, um, would you recommend the Madison? And I want to know from your standpoint too, being a guy. So, as a guy, would you recommend any guy or any woman to watch the Madison?
I would, I'll hit the ball off the tee that you set up because I think, I mean, it does not have the typical machismo adrenaline rush of most things that I recommend from my side
Hmm.
and that kind of float my boat a little bit more. But to my earlier point, it is the polar comparison of, from a man's perspective, what man do you want to be? Do you want to be this effeminate man of modern society?
Hmm.
And then it offers a choice, a very stark choice. Do you want to be the prissy man child who can't open a jar of pickles for his wife, or do you want to be the provider and the protector who proverbially, I know, does the right thing by
Mm.
instinct rather than request? And as time goes along, these undertones that resonate throughout Sheridan shows, we've drifted so far apart from them from reality to focus on the point of, okay, this isn't a guy's show. Should a man still watch it? I think there's still value in a man watching it because it does offer that comparison of what type of man do you want to be? What type of man do you want to set an example for your sons to be? That sort of thing.
Mm. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, I I would recommend literally any woman to watch it. I think any woman would like it. I'm not sure about any guy. Like even if a guy is thinking, well, I like Taylor Sheridan shows, I like Yellowstone. I don't know if I would. It's quite a bit more emotional than Yellowstone. And I was thinking of my own husband, and uh, there's certain shows where like if two characters get an emotional moment or it's profound or it's like people talking about friendship or oh you mean so much to me as a friend or things like that, my husband will turn to me and be like boring, or he'll be like fast forward, like he's joking around but he's like kind of like like he kind of gets dragged down by all the emotional stuff. So I'm like I would not recommend a show to him. I do think though that if you have guys that are typically a little more in touch with their emotional side, then they would probably enjoy watching it with their wives or girlfriends. And if they didn't mind the that it can be sappy, here and there, maybe they would enjoy it. And yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't say any woman or any guy, but I would say any woman and some guys.
Well, I think a male that maybe embodies a lot of those traditions from a traditional Western culture type of character build in modern times. They may not, I mean, they could probably watch it and appreciate it, but they wouldn't necessarily get anything out of it.
Mm,
Versus this is probably meant as a message to men that are amongst societies of the coastal elite, where if something needs to get done, they're used to picking up the phone and calling someone, or calling or calling their parents or uncle or grandparents or someone that actually did embody those
mm.
characteristics more, or calling a professional, having them taken care of. I think it's targeted more towards men like that, where they could see they could see the comparison the show is making between the way they live and the way past generations or different parts of society live.
Let me ask you a question. I don't know if this would appeal if this was appealing to you or a factor. I almost question if it might be a factor for some guys watching. Um, is it sort of a draw for the female eye candy in this show. Like I mean you have Michelle Pfeiffer
Asking
who's
me?
six. Yeah,
Oh, from the women. The women. Oh, the women.
yeah, yeah. So like for example, Michelle Pfeiffer, she's 67. I think she looks pretty damn good for 67. You have Bo Garrett who is 43 in real life. I don't the actress who plays Paige, her voice sounded extremely familiar, and I looked up her filmography. Nothing stood out to me. I think she's sort of a new actress. She hasn't been in that much. So I don't know,
Huh.
like are those three like eye candy that would want to make a guy watch to be like, oh, Michelle Pfeiffer is really hot, even though she's older. Like, I don't know if would that be appealing?
Paige is kind of like, pardon the expression, the Timu Margot Robbie. Um, I mean, honest to goodness, I mean, I looked at Michelle Pfeiffer, I'm thinking, for a woman pushing 70, she could kind of still kick it. Um, and I mean, Paige is pretty, but she's, in that kind of plastic pretty sense,
Mm,
so like, so like, if that's not your thing, as a guy, you're like, well, I want to turn her down, but, she's kind of just that, plastic front of People magazine type of pretty. And then Abby, I mean, there were certain uh parts scenes she was in where I was like, okay, she's kind of looks like she could still hold her own for age, but then there are other scenes where she was a bit more natural. I'm like, oh damn, that is a beautiful woman right there. So she kind of like played out. She kind of danced on either side of the fence a little bit, and as far as appeal. So it was a
yeah, I mean,
range. It was a range.
I just kind of wondered about it because for me, I couldn't help but notice the ages. And what I mean by that is at the beginning, they say that they're celebrating Preston is Kurt Russell's character. They're
Mhm.
celebrating his birthday and he says something about, yeah, I'm 64. And I was like, pardon? Because I had to look up Kurt Russell's. I was like, he's definitely got to be in his 70s, if not pushing 80. So I was like, he ain't no 64, Taylor Sheridan. And it turns out he's 74. So he's playing a character that's 10 years younger than what he really is. Like that's not really that bad. But I was a little bit it kind of had me scratching my head. And I wonder if it's because I know Bo Garrett from other things. She was in this show called Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, which I think was on Bravo. It was like the only scripted show on Bravo. Um, so she was on that. She also had a bit part in Firefly Lane. And I knew for sure that like I almost thought that she was pushing 50, like she was maybe 46, 48. I looked up her age and I was surprised that she was 43. But what was kind of crazy to me as I was getting a little bit of PTSD from that JLo sci-fi movie we watched where like JLo was supposed to be 37 at one point when she's like 53 in real life. So I was kind of like, I'm like, the math ain't mathing here. Whoever did the casting, or like, if Taylor Sheridan wrote it that way and they ended up casting Bo Garrett, couldn't they have like upped the age in the script a couple years? Just the fact that they're saying that uh Stacy and Preston have been married for 39 to 40 years. They say 39 one time, then they say 40 another time. And then Abby says that she had her daughter at 20 years old and her daughter's maybe like 14 to 16. So I'm doing the math and I'm like, okay, she'd have to be like 36. So just for reference, I'm 39 years old. So they're trying to say that Bo Garrett is supposed to be believable being young, 3 years younger than I am. So look at my face, look at Bo Garrett's face. Um, do we think that Bo Garrett can pull off being 36? She's 43. I don't think so. And no offense to Bo Garrett. I think she's very pretty. But I was like, what are you guys trying to do here? This is a little bit nuts for me as far as aging. Like it doesn't check out.
I think this is a you thing. This doesn't
You know
bother.
what?
These aging things don't bother me at all. I think anything within 10 years is pretty passable. I mean, I'm also used to having pe members of my family that, you know, don't look as old as they are. I've been accused of being younger than I look. I think part of that is also due to my own attitudes at times. Um, but like I think when people hear a particular age, they think of a particular age, and they think like, oh, that's old. Someone should look older. It's kind of like they expect someone in their 70s to look like Skeletor or the Crypt Keeper or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, but I don't know, with with some people naturally aging, but the majority of people doing Botox, doing filler these days, I just wonder if I don't know, am I looking at examining something with like a magnifying glass that something people don't notice? So basically what I'm saying is get in the comments and tell me whether you agree with me. The fact, like, were you like scratching your head like at Bo Garrett saying, or them insinuating that she was like in her mid 30s? Because I was like, that doesn't make any sense that she would be younger than me. But
I
I
mean,
don't know. I thought she was mid 40s, and like I'm not saying that to be insulting. I'm just saying based on how, like, and I think she's very mature maybe in how she carries herself as an actress. So maybe that's why I thought that she was older than she is. It's not really an insult to like her face or the way her face looks.
mid 36, 37 up to 43 is a pretty normal range to like if you were assessing the dating field and you were and like let's say maybe a more comparable, maybe more relatable from my perspective because more common for a man to date down than a woman to date down. But
True.
if a man's 43 and the woman's 36 or 37, would you look at that and think, okay, that's weird?
I don't know, like
Because
you
I would look at that and be like that's just a normal age range. It's not like it's 42 and 25,
I also
which
kind
I
of
mean
feel
if you could
like
do it, great.
I think the aging thing with women is a little bit different. Usually, in most of these shows, women are playing characters that are plus or minus 2 years within their real age. Like that's normal. That's normal for like I think the last Jason Bateman show I watched, Black Rabbit, he's playing someone who's like 2 to 3 years older or younger than what he is in real life. That I expect that. But when you're trying to say that somebody is like 7, 8 years younger than they really are, I'm kind of like, with some people I could believe it. It depends on the person. But yeah, that was just a little insane to me. I was like, why can't they just change the script to be like, oh yeah, we've been married for 42 years instead of 39? You know what I'm saying? Like, why couldn't they just have made that simple tweak to make it more believable?
At 39 or 42 years of marriage, I don't think an extra 3 years is going to make that much of a difference.
I don't
You're pretty much
know.
happy with each other at that point.
I don't know. I just want to clarify though, like that was like a little nitpicking thing for me. I was like, come on, Taylor Sheridan, come on, casting agent or whoever's doing the casting. Like that was like a little bit of a I was like, it's a little bit lazy to me. But that being said, I wouldn't be like, don't watch the show because of that. It was just something that kind of irked me where I was like, what the hell? Like, am I the only one like thinking this is insane? I don't know. So tell me if I am insane or tell me if you agree.
Yeah, I
I would
mean,
love to hear.
then we might need some third opinions because it doesn't even trigger my radar.
Yes. So please put in the comments what you think, whether you agree or disagree with me on the aging thing. And on that note, if you enjoy listening to our show, we would appreciate it if you give us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think of each episode. Also, be sure to hit that follow or subscribe button so you know when new episodes release. Next up, we have Imperfect Women on Apple TV. We got a lot of star power in this one. We have Elizabeth Moss, Kerry Washington, and Kate Mara. Mara? I don't know. That's how I say it. Kate Mara. So they're lifelong friends, the three of them. One of them is murdered. I guess we don't know which one. And that's when their lifelong bond starts to unravel. So it's based on a book, which I, full disclosure, have not read. So that should be a good drama murder mystery for us. I'm pretty pumped. What about you?
That was more that I know going into it, other than the three big names
Oh,
associated to it. So now you've prepped Now you've prepped my insight as we delve into whatever Apple decides to drop on us.
Yeah. So there you go. Get excited for this murder mystery. So until the next real review, Red and Red signing out.